Hi, everyone. My name is Jeff Sapelli. I'm the general manager for Walt Wines. Thanks you for joining our happy hour today. This is actually the anniversary, the 1 year anniversary of our hosting happy hours. And I can't believe, that we're still hosting them. I'm so grateful for the fact that people still tune in to check us out, to see what's going on, to enjoy a glass of wine with us. It's incredible. It's been an incredible success story for us as a winery to be able to reach out in this way. And so we just wanted to say thank you and happy anniversary to everyone who has tuned in. There's no better way to celebrate your anniversary of a pandemic, if you can believe, to have a doctor, a real live expert in the field, come on with us. And we're so excited today to have Dr. Agus with us. He is the CEO of the Ellison Institute, and he's going to be joining us in just a second. Before we actually bring Dr. Agus in, I wanted to remind everyone that our tasting rooms are open. It's a beautiful day when we are tasting outside. It's an incredible tasting experience. We have some new wines to show you. And in addition, we have the return of our Route 101, which is our food and wine pairing at our Sonoma and Oxbow properties. And those experiences are ready to go. You can book them at waltwines.com. If you're joining us, by the way, on the Hall Wines Facebook or the Baca Wines Facebook, you can check out those experiences as well by going online at hallwines.com or bacawines.com. But you didn't come here to see me and just hear me talk. You came to see one of the preeminent cancer researchers, one of the preeminent doctors, period, in the world. His name is Dr. David Agus. You can see him often on CBS, where he is a medical expert on that show. I actually caught him on Howard Stern, and he was not only super informative, but very funny. As I mentioned, he's the CEO of the Ellison Institute, and I'm hoping Dr. Agus is out there to talk today. Thank you so much. Hey, Dr. Agus, how are you today?
I'm great. It is Friday afternoon, so it is awesome.
Thank you. Yes, it is Friday afternoon. It's, the nice thing about hosting this at home, I think you're actually at work, is I don't have very far to go to get dinner. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
And I hope you have dinner too. I wanted to start by just, we love to send our guests wine. And I have this is our 2017 Shea Vineyard. I'm going to just pass it to you through the internet. We're not going very far. We're just going down to Southern California.
Wow, that's amazing. How'd you do that? That's so cool.
We cooked this up about a year ago. We've been doing these bottle passes. Well, I'd love it if you pour a glass and join me just to toast. I wanted to toast you and everyone at USC, all the doctors, all the nurses that have been helping us. Thank you so much. You're our first doctor that's come on. So cheers to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Excellent. How is everyone doing now that vaccines are starting to roll out? You're in Los Angeles, which was, I know, a big epicenter of what was happening. Is the morale getting a little better? Do you feel like things are starting to see the end?
Yeah, I mean, it's a race, right? People are saying, hey, there's a vaccine. I can do whatever I want. And when you have 2 shots and 2 weeks after, you can do a lot. The problem is until you get there, you can't. And there's a young generation that is taking this as a free pass. And we're seeing increasing numbers of viruses and increased hospitalization over the last couple of weeks. So there really is a race. Get that vaccine in the arms and get people to keep wearing masks for a few more months.
That was actually going to be my first question. I wanted to talk about, should people get the vaccine and, what are the advantages to getting the vaccine?
So
in 3 words, I don't know.
This is a vaccine, that these 4 vaccines now, the leading 4 candidates have been in over 150 million arms worldwide and not one serious long-term side effect. And they work. They block hospitalization and serious illness almost 100%. So it's pretty amazing. And now if you have a vaccine, you can get together with other people unmasked and have a dinner party. As of today, you can travel if you have a vaccine and not quarantine on either end. Those are big, big permissions. And what we're going to do is give privileges to people who have immunity who can't spread the virus to others.
It was really exciting for us as the winery when they started opening up vaccinations for farm workers. For us, it was food and ag in the Napa Valley. And so we all, luckily as a team, were able to get vaccinated. But do you think that the first place people should go is wine country if they've gotten vaccinated?
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, the key is to relax. And what better way to do it than in nature and with something that is several thousand years old, which is wine. We've been doing wine for a long time in this globe. And it certainly is something that is part of our humanity and celebrate.
Well, I appreciate that endorsement. Our tasting rooms are open, and I, as much as I enjoy the fact that that we get to talk, and I've gotten to talk to a number of amazing people over the course of the year, I would love to do this in person. And since we're both vaccinated, we can sit inside. Is that
No
right?
question about it. Yeah, we can
That's
sit inside. Small groups up to six or a little bit more can sit together. There could be one unvaccinated pod with you, and we can start to have those dinner parties. What we know now is that if you're vaccinated and exposed to someone with the virus, we don't think there's no data now that you can actually transmit it to someone else who has a normal immune system. So people who are vulnerable, a little bit different, they have to
yeah.
stay home. But if you have a vaccine and a normal immune system, this is really, we can go back to a more new normal.
I would I would love that day. I had dinner with my parents actually last weekend for the first time inside, everyone hanging out. We're going to get together for Easter. I really appreciate all the work that all these researchers.
Yeah, we had our own first dinner party with two other couples, and literally we felt we were breaking the law. We kept thinking someone was going to come in and arrest us. This is prohibition times, and we are rebels. But it's allowed. It's kind of wild. But no, I've been watching these vaccines from the beginning, and the scientists we've been working with literally from end of January, and it's amazing to see it where we are today. It's amazing to see science that will topple this virus and continue to keep it under control. We just have to play by the rules till we get there.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And what we're doing at the tasting room is, we're still wearing masks while other people are enjoying wine. We're making sure that everything's nice and clean. I did want to take a quick audience question though. We had asked our Facebook watchers, and actually, so here's the owner of the winery. This is Catherine Walthall. She's the owner of the vintner of the winery. Do you agree with we are facing a fourth wave?
Well, I hate to be negative on a day like today, but the answer is yes. I mean, I think we're seeing increase in numbers, and I think they're underestimating the number of cases in the country. The people who are getting it now are predominantly younger people. We had canaries in a coal mine. We had older individuals who would get really symptomatic, and they would go get tested, and our testing numbers will go up. Young people are predominantly asymptomatic, and they could just spread the virus. So they're not being tested as much. And testing is hard. Our testing sites in LA have been converted to vaccine sites.
Right.
So the numbers are underestimating, I think, the numbers of cases across the country. And I think there are going to be a lot of people who suffer. Because remember, even if you're asymptomatic, you can have lung and heart problems later in life from this virus. It is a bad, bad virus. You don't want to get it. So we have to avoid it till we can get toward herd immunity.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I know it seems frustrating for a lot of people, but it's been a long year and we're almost there. So wanted to talk a little bit though so you're not only super knowledgeable in this subject, which has gotten ramped up a lot for you, but you're a cancer research doctor. You're one of the actually preeminent cancer research doctors. You were on the board of the NIH, I think, if that's right. I saw an interview that you wrote your first medical journal when you were 13 years old.
I was a little kid. I was a geek when everybody else was out playing sports. So yes, I am a geek. You've identified that.
That's okay. That's okay. We're wine geeks. So we have to wear the Cork Dork, if you've heard of that. We wear that
right. Good.
Really well. But you're also an author. You've written 3 different books. The most recent one is The Lucky Years. If you were to change one thing in our lifestyle, mindset, diet, like what do you think the biggest thing that we can do is to improve our own health?
Well, I think the simplest thing that we can all do that will have a dramatic effect is what we call regularity in schedule. Eat your meals around the same time every day with nothing in between.
Really?
Same amount of calories, you'll lose weight because your metabolism goes down. Go to bed and get up the same time every day. It'll significantly improve cognitive function and athletic performance. Our bodies were engineered for regularity, and yet, our society now is, stay up one night late, the next night early, sleep late on the weekend.
Yeah.
Do it the same time every day. You're going to do better. I promise.
So my buddy Adam, who gets up at 5 a.m. on Saturdays, Sundays, and every other day and goes to bed at 10, that's the medicine there.
Oh yeah. I mean, the more regular you can be, the better you'll do, period.
Well, Adam's a pretty regular guy. So I'm going to start listening to him a little bit more. next question we had was really about your Twitter account. Now, I know Twitter's a big deal, but you're the only person in the world that I've seen put your phone number on your Twitter account. What's the weirdest or craziest tweet you've ever received, or text message you've ever received?
All right, so this was, I don't know, probably, I have no sense of timing during COVID, but it was probably 7 or 8 months ago. I got a text and it said,
and this is your phone. This is actually your phone number.
This is my phone. It is a service called Community. So it's not really my phone number, but it's a text service that I answer all the texts. And it said, David, this is Ruth Bader Ginsburg's assistant. She had been calling this number for the last week and she can't get a hold of you. And we have been involved in her cancer care. And so this number, it's not a real phone number. It goes to this text service, which is remarkable. And I can answer all the texts. But, and I couldn't explain it to her. I felt horrible. And I called her up. It was too hard to explain. So I just said, I screwed up. I apologize. And had her assistant change my cell phone number in her contacts so she would call the real one going forward. She's a remarkable person. A couple of years ago, I'm in my office and the back line rings. And so this is a line that you have to know to get it. And it's like 6 o'clock and I answer the phone. She goes, hey, this is Ruth Bader Ginsburg's office. Will you speak to her about a case we're doing on genetics and this? And I go, I'd be privileged to. She goes, good, this is me. I go, what do you mean? She goes, my assistant had gone home. So she pretended to be her assistant to call. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you had a chance to meet her. You had a chance to talk with her. I mean,
she got to know over the years. She's a remarkable, remarkable individual.
We have my wife's an attorney and that's one of her heroes. So the fact that she was calling you up while she was going through treatment, it's just, hey, wow, that's incredible. All right, well, the next question we have for you before I talk a little bit about the wine, because I want you to enjoy the wine, is have you ever been, so I travel a lot usually in the world to, sell wine, to have wine dinners. Have you ever been on a plane like me, enjoying a glass of wine, and they call for a doctor? Or it doesn't have to be a plane, it could be a train. What do you do when that happens?
I first pause. Listen, I'm privileged to help anybody, but I first pause. If I'm having a glass of wine, I pause and make sure there's somebody else who's not having a glass of wine who can go first.
Right.
And if there's not, we've done it. And, it's happened to me probably a half a dozen times in my lifetime where we've had to, on those kind of, unfortunately, we spent a lot of time on a plane, where we've had to help people. And some have, been remarkably thankful. Some have been as rude as you can get. It's kind of wild that you try to help someone and they're not nice. But yeah, I mean, obviously that's the good of having a glass of wine is you can let someone else try to go first as a doctor. But if you're the only one, you tell them in advance, I've had a glass of wine, but you got to do it.
I'm going to take you with a glass of wine, by the way. Like, you could have the whole bottle for all I care. If I'm up in the air 36,000 feet and you show up, or any doctor for that matter. It's better that way than me trying to figure it out. Well, I wanted to give you a break to enjoy the wine. And I'm going to talk just a little bit about it. So this is from the Shea Vineyard in the Willamette Valley. The Willamette Valley, for our viewers, is and your fans who are tuning in, is in Oregon. It's just south of Portland, about 45 minutes, in an area that it rains a lot. So when you think about California style wines, we have fruit, we have heat, we have a lot of exuberance and the concentration in those because of the fact that it's sunny. And in Oregon, they don't. They have a very short season, and it's perfect for growing thin-skinned grapes like Pinot Noir, Pinot Gris, and other really delicate wines. Dick Shea is the owner of the vineyard. He's one of the most, he grows not only for himself, but he grows for about 17 other producers. And all of them are high scoring wines. These are wines that they're very well written about by all of the writers. Tends to, if you smell it, tends to be really light and fragrant and red fruit, and more of that terroir driven. So we're more earth flavors. There's more forest floor. And then when you taste the wine, it's going to present those, what we call secondary flavors first, those earth driven flavors. It has a fairly tannic backbone, especially for Pinot Noir. This isn't Cabernet where it comes on really fast. It's more subtle in the recesses of your palate. But it's really that red fruit that lands second, which is different than California wines. We're going to taste a much different wine towards the end of the show, which is really more driven by fruit and flavor, and this is more driven by earth and terroir. So really pretty interested in your take on it.
I love it. I mean, I can definitely taste the earthy flavors. How different is it year to year in Oregon compared to California, where there's such big differences? It's similar there?
Wildly different. Yeah, it's so for instance, if you just step back into 2016, this is the 2017 vintage,
Right.
Really hot year, really concentrated year, big voluptuous flavors. When I used to take this wine to sommeliers all over the world or all over the country, and because most of our wines, we don't make a lot of wine, so I can't get them too far outside the United States. But they would always say, "Is this Oregon?" And I said, "Well, it's the 2016 vintage." It was a hot year. It was hot from August all the way through September, and it was probably one of the earliest harvests that we had ever seen, as opposed to 2017, which kind of shifted back to that normal schedule, which is, it's warm, everything ripens, you start to feel the flavors start to come on, you're starting to watch the sugars rise, and then the rain falls. And then now it's really just a battle with nature of when are you going to decide to pick? And sometimes you're not going to pick until almost mid-October. We've actually, in 2011, we picked in November, which is not,
Wow. Yeah.
not our favorite thing to do. It doesn't necessarily produce our favorite wine, but you just do what you can, because what's incredible up there is the winemakers are they're just wily. They have machines that take the water off the grapes, so that they can get fermentation started. That's one of the biggest problems. If you have a lot of water and it ends up in the tank, you can't actually start fermentation. And so they have those. They have we learned a stem roasting technique from a Oregon State viticulturalist who was studying barbecuing stems to try to add them back to tank to create more tannin. We actually took that on and roasted them in a chili roaster, and that produced a lot of tannin. So yeah, it's wild.
What about the culture of the winemakers, Oregon versus California? Different?
I don't know if I would say they're different. I would just think there's a culture of winemakers. I'm not a winemaker. I'm the business director for the winery, and I've met a lot of them, and that's the culture. They are. Yeah. They're artists, and they're artists. They're farmers. Like, especially when you think about Pinot Noir, and Megan and Allison, our winemakers, are very much artists. But they have one shot a year to produce the very best thing that they can. And so what I respect is, if you have a long career in wine, you may have produced 30 wines, and so that you really have to wear it and
Right.
and really you just got to be an alpha. Go out there and get it.
I love it. I mean, it's big. I love this. It's great.
Cool.
I like it. Yeah.
I was saying, you're a collector. I saw an interview that you have two main hobbies. Your Jaguar that you were building with your son, and you collect wine. Am I accurate?
Well, the word collecting is a funny word. I mean, it just sounds weird. I love drinking wine, and we certainly have purchased wine, and we're letting it get to the right stage to drink. So collecting, it almost implies like, I'm putting it on the shelf to look pretty.
Uh-huh.
I mean, to me, it's really, it's history. I love thinking about what happened that year, and you're drinking that history, and wherever you are, the wine, whether it be France, whether it be the Middle East, whether it be California, it's just, there's something to it that's just, deep about it, which I love.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel good.
Yeah. Well, thank you for bringing up the Middle East.
Yes.
Well, thank you. So if there's health benefits, we'll take it. But the Middle East was actually, I think, where grapes were first found. So that's pretty awesome.
We tried a project once where some Israeli scientists had pottery shards with grape on it. And the idea was, can we clone the grape so they could replicate that current grape, biblical grapes, and grow them?
Are you serious?
Yes. And so we brought it to the lab, and we did this as a favor to them. Unfortunately, we couldn't get enough, to be able to actually clone those grapes, because it would have been amazing to go back to what real biblical grapes were.
Yeah. I'm putting the Cork Dork. I'm going to try to put the Cork Dork hat on you. Right. That's incredible.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Thank you. Well, yeah, we would love to have you up. You can collect whatever you'd like. I hope that you're enjoying the wines today. Wanted to dovetail back to some questions, not necessarily serious questions. You live in Los Angeles, and so the entertainment capital of the world, we think, as Californians at least. But we wanted to ask you about medical drama television shows. What specifically, your opinion, which show do you think most accurately depicts what happens in a real hospital? You are the director of a real hospital.
I don't watch, to be honest, most of the shows. I remember watching ER and I thought it was great.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
love what they did. It was Michael Crichton, one of the greatest science fiction writers,
Yeah.
a doctor himself. It's interesting, a doctor who was also a chain smoker who died of lung cancer, but a remarkable doctor,
Oh, yeah.
one of the most creative there was, and I loved it. I really loved it. To me, I mean, medicine is amazing, and it's what I get passionate about. So if people show it in any show and people get passionate, I think it's fantastic.
So which doctor do you think, which TV doctor do you think that did the best job then? Would you?
All right, you're probably
go?
too young to even know this.
Okay.
Do you remember a show called Quincy?
No, I don't actually. So yes, that's okay.
He was a coroner, which I know it sounds weird, but I do autopsy.
No.
If you're my patient and you pass away, unfortunately, with disease, I ask in advance that I do an autopsy because I want to learn what I did right and wrong. I want a quality control measure. Just like, if you're a winemaker, you never get to taste the wine. I want to see, is that thing in the lung, was it really cancer, or was it just an infection, or was it just a fibrous something, scar tissue? And so it's the only way I can learn. And that's what he did. He was about autopsies. And I thought that was an amazing thing, is you could tell a story by looking at the body. I know it sounds morbid and weird, but we need a feedback loop. We have to learn what we did right and wrong. And all today's generation is, you Google something on the iPhone, but you need that pattern recognition, as a doctor, because unfortunately it's still an art. It's not yet a full science.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think for us as winemakers, we're going to look at the vintage, right? We're going to, every year we'll study it. That's our best way to do an autopsy on what we did right, what we did wrong. We still talk about the 2016 and probably adding too much oak to the wine. Now, we're not saving lives. We're just trying to bring some enjoyment to people's lives, but that's pretty cool. So the big question we wanted to ask you as a winery, then thank you, Amy Dowd. Amy Dowd's actually our HR person at the winery. And
thank you, Amy. I appreciate your comments.
So if you were to create a TV show about your career, what type of medical show would it be?
I have a weird career, right? I mean, I started off as a basic scientist. I became a doctor, a cancer doctor. I wrote medicine and books on general medicine. And then I explained science and medicine on TV. And now we're involved very deeply on policy on a global basis. So it's a little bit of everything. We're privileged to do it. Every day, I have no idea what's going to happen. I've had a team that's been with me for decades, which makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
But I have no idea what TV show would be. I mean, it's a little bit of everything is the hard part. There's not the sex and the drama you see on television. Unfortunately, we have none of that in our business. It's not as exciting as that. Yeah. But it's a privilege to do what I do. I pinch myself every day that people put their lives in our hands, that people listen to what we say, and that we can make an impact on a global basis. I mean, it's amazing to me. I keep thinking, is this really what I'm doing? I mean, so I love what I'm doing. I'm the ultimate geek. I was a scientist as a young kid. Yeah. I put a project in a space shuttle in high school. I was in a lab when everybody else was, on a baseball field.
Stop, just real fast. You put a project on the space shuttle?
It's a horrible story. And, I don't want to be a downer, but yes, we were one of the first projects where we put these mice, and I went down for the launch, and I was there when they came back, and I was so excited. And then they came back and nobody looked me in the eye, and they finally brought the cage of mice. They had calculated the G forces wrong on takeoff. And on takeoff, all the mice died. So they gave me a cage of mice that had been dead for a week. And I just sat there crying with my mice and nobody else around me. It was a very sad, but I felt very special. It was an amazing moment. But yes, it did not succeed.
Oh, that's rough. Yeah, I did. I was a biology major at UCSB, and we studied mice. We were actually studying a protein in the brain that gets turned on when mice get turned on, like sexually. And so that was I'll tell you that story when we're not on stream. That was a funny story. But I wanted to just have a chance to taste this next one. You've given us a lot of your time, and wanted to have an opportunity to try our Rita's Crown Pinot Noir. So this is actually from the Santa Rita Hills in Santa Barbara County. This is a Pinot Noir that is much different than the first. This is much more fruit driven, much more about the flavor density and dynamic flavors that are in the glass. It's actually owned by the Sea Smoke Group, the vineyard itself. Mm-hmm. If you're familiar with that wine, and it's from the dead middle of it. So, have you been to Santa Barbara at all?
Yeah, we love it.
So as you're driving north and you get to Anderson Pea Soup, you basically hang a left and you go all the way out towards Lompoc. And just kind of halfway between there and Lompoc is this vineyard. You literally, after you traverse up and down a hill and get your car stuck 3 times, there's about 3 inches of just light, fluffy soil, and it's diatomaceous earth. And it's nice, actually. I can say that to a scientist, by the way. I just thought
very cool. Well, I don't hear that used in many sentences, I have to say.
But it's that really soft, heavy drained soils that produce this wine. The berries are really small. There's a lot of wind that comes into the top of the vineyard because it sits on the crown of the hillside. And this is actually for Megan, our winemaker, and I, and a lot of us in the winery, this is one of our favorite wines. These are the 2 wines. Our winemaker is Allison for Walt. She loves she loves the Shea, and for Megan and I, we love the Rita's Crown. But it has a little bit more elegance in the fruit, I think, is the biggest difference for me in these wines. Really nice long finish, some earthy tones. You get a little of that salinity in the wine. I think that's endemic in the soils there. But what did you think about just this wine versus what we were drinking prior?
Oh yeah, I mean, this, just you taste that fruit, and it's just so fresh in that regard. I love it.
Nice.
It's interesting. The Shea is the kind of wine I would have when I'm reading something really important science and I want to think, and it will make me feel smarter. This is the wine I want to kind of have a tough day and I just want to relax and enjoy things. They're both, they make your brain do different things. It's kind of wild.
That's cool. So actually, I've explained that wine the Shea wine exactly the same way. When I'm traveling and I land and I've got, a mountain of things that have just appeared in my inbox, I just grab a glass of Shea. But when I really want to sit down and relax, I'm always in the Santa Rita Hills, which is, wow, that's great. It's like we met. Well, I wanted to take a couple questions just because I know you're very busy. And so I think we have a couple questions from David. David wanted to ask about your relationship with Howard Stern and how it has affected your life since you've been on. So David's clearly a big fan of Howard Stern. How's that show been affecting?
Yeah, Howard's amazing. I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, I got a call from Brad Gray, who was the CEO of Paramount Pictures, who said, will you take a call from Howard Stern? And Howard had left a voicemail just in tears. My co-host, Robin Quivers, was diagnosed with cancer. I don't know what to do. They gave her a death sentence. Please help. And we got involved. And Robin is still, I'm happy to say, alive and doing well. And we began a friendship where over time we became his doctor. And, to be able to go on his show where he is one of the great interviewers in modern time. And so to be able for him to kind of pull science out of me and be able to explain it to the public, it's really a privilege. It's scary at first, right? Someone in my position, you don't expect me to be on Howard Stern. But
yeah.
And the wild part is you get emails from people, there's Nobel laureate. I don't normally watch. I was changing the channel and I happened to hear you. I can't tell you how many people say that to me because almost like they're embarrassed to say they're a regular listener, which I know they are. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, Howard's a great, he's a great interviewer, and I loved seeing you on him because I don't mind saying that I watched that. But how is that different than like CBS? Like when you're going on CBS versus Howard, is it more casual? Is it?
They're both similar. Howard's long form, and so long form I love because for an hour, 2 hours, you get to talk, and you can really explain things in depth. And CBS, someone is in your ear saying, "A minute left, 20 seconds, wrap," and so you have to in 2-3 minutes get really important points where people are going to, and every word they're going to look into and tweet about and talk about. So it's a little bit scarier. So in many respects, the Howard is easier and more fun because it's a long form conversation and he makes you relaxed.
Well, I would love to continue this conversation at the winery with you and your wife, your kids.
We would love it, Jeff.
So I'm wholeheartedly inviting you to come visit us. Wanted to just, again, toast to you, to all of the nurses and doctors that have been saving our lives for the last year and will continue to do so for a long time. I wanted to see if you had anything you wanted to say to the audience before we go.
It's been a rough year, right? For the first time in our field, you saw the sausage being made, right? Our recommendations change month to month to month as we learn more. And so I'm just amazed at the resiliency of the American people, how we stood up and we've survived. Our economy is back on track. These vaccines are a tribute to science globally, and we all have to take something positive from this. And, to me, it's that we're all one community. What we do matters, not just for ourselves, but for somebody else. And I think that's what's critical. And then I think what we all have, and what we're doing now, is that you got to learn to enjoy things. And who would think that we would be sitting here having a glass of wine and you handed me a bottle through Zoom? But it's powerful. And I think that's what's important, is that we can all interact in new ways. I'm talking to family members I haven't talked to in years through this. And so let's take something positive from the pandemic. And as we come out of it, really use those things to improve ourselves and to enjoy life in the moment, and then to really enjoy the interactions we have, because we've all missed them. So here's to everybody else.
Well, thank you. And here's to you, Dr. David Agus. Thank you so much for joining the Walt Wines Happy Hour today. And thank you for all of just your time. And I wish you guys the best. I invite the entire USC medical team to come see us. If you're all vaccinated, let's all just have a big party. Sounds like a fun time.
We'll be there. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Cheers to you. That was Dr. David Agus. He's the CEO of the Ellison Institute at USC. That was fun. And so I wanted to say thank you to all of our listeners for the year that you've been sharing with us. We are going to keep going. We have some incredible guests coming on in the next couple weeks. We hope that you will tune in and follow us at waltwines.com, at hallwines.com, and bacawines.com. We appreciate you tuning in. It's Friday. Go open a bottle of wine and cheers.